Can you see me now? Can you see me now? I'm not seeing myself, my brother. Okay, I'm seeing you. I'm seeing you now. Can you see me now? Okay, let me off something. Let me check. Let me check, I beg. Let me check. Can you see me now? Skype, let me. I'm seeing you two places. Can you see me? Oh God, why is it happening now? I'm not seeing myself, my brother. I'm seeing you. I'm seeing you now. Can you see me now? Okay, let me off something. Let me check. Let me check. Let me check, I beg. Let me check. Can you see me now? Skype, let me. I'm seeing you two places. Can you see me? I'm seeing you. I'm seeing you now. Can you see me now? Can you see? Let me check. Let me check. I'm coming. Can you see me now? Can you see me now? Skype. I'm seeing you. Okay. I don't know. I think so. Yeah. I think I was trying to use the app before. Can you hear me? Okay. 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 Inconvenience. That means you can stay in your comfort of your house and access these services. So we'll move to the progress of telemedicine. Started with telephone, SMS, phone calls, emails, then down to video calls, Skype, which we are using now, and also WhatsApp, and so on. So that means then finally to a dedicated platform which will be approved by a regulatory body. Like in the US, they make use of FDA and HIPAA in order to regulate the body, and also have a specialized, maybe a platform like an app where patients can come and register and access healthcare, consult their doctor or their scientist or any or their healthcare providers. So this regulatory body helps in making sure that the privacy of patient is being kept on check, so that you electronic health record. So everything you are doing will be moving, but this one will record your data online. As soon as you are speaking to your healthcare provider, is moving and be recording there. Also, we now have the asynchronous type. The asynchronous type is patient comes online, comes to his app. Maybe his healthcare provider is not online. He just type everything that you need to type, informing your healthcare provider that I need this, I need that, I am feeling like this, I need your advice. You just send it. Maybe in the afternoon, in the next day, you now see the reply of your telling you what to do, or maybe he will now schedule a call, you now schedule a real-time call if he cannot communicate well, as you try to message him on the asynchronous type. So it's just a way of communicating, and you get a reply later. So that's basically what it means. So, and which automatically records on your electronic health record. So that is it. So we'll now move to on telemedicine. We have the infrastructure needed for you to communicate. This infrastructure can be in a form of a hardware or and software too. So the hardware basically is your laptop, your desktop, your phone, your device.
Hello, good evening. Very fine, thank you. You said? My video is on. You said? I'm turning and turning, so I don't know. You said? I am the one turning. It is the camera that is turning and I am static. You said? I don't know where. I don't know where to check the preview, so I don't know if it's something you tell me, because I'm doing the live call as in a joint call for a broadcast for the first time. I've done other Skype call, but this is more like a training, so. Yes, I am. Okay, I'm not using my laptop for the call. It's my phone. Am I going to be sharing a screen? Okay. Okay, just capturing of physical because I have a slide, so just wanted to know. So how is the view now? Landscape or portrait? Okay. Okay. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, hello, I can hear you. Okay. Yes, I can hear you.
So we're going live now. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the second part of this last session. And we have our next guest, the person of Dr. Grace A. John-Ugwuanya. In a moment, she'll be talking to us. And we want to believe that you got some value from the previous section we had with Christian Chukwu. We also believe that as we keep committing ourselves to the information shared here, that our sole aim for organizing this summit, which is helping you to position yourself better to take advantage of this post-COVID era, will be something fruitful in your life. You may ask, who is Dr. Grace? Dr. Grace A. John-Ugwuanya, among many things, an Amazon best-selling author, a human development strategist, and a biomedical researcher. She is a serial speaker who inspires many to, to become better individuals in areas of life. Grace is a trained medical laboratory scientist with a first class in pharmaceutical sciences from the University of Greenwich, UK, and had her doctorate degree at Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, in collaboration with University of Nebraska Medical Center, Omaha, USA. She founded Graced for Active Progress Empowerment Initiative (GAP), an NGO that focuses on creating educational awareness, vocational training, and provision of humanitarian services to students and internally displaced persons. She's also the director of Amara's Hub Concept, event management, content writing, and editing service provider. She has been a guest on radio and TV shows and has spoken at several live and online events. Please help me welcome our guest, Dr. Grace. Welcome to the summit.
Thank, thank you very much for the invitation. I am Grace, as Mr. Elvis has introduced, and I'll be talking today about professional practice and personal development. I know that most of us are professionals, medical laboratory scientists, and okay. Sorry for the break in the network transmission. I was talking about us being professionals and what qualifies anyone, depending on their field, to be professionals has to do with the conduct and the work of that particular profession and the use of the person's knowledge in that profession. For us as medical laboratory scientists, we have been trained in clinical diagnostics, and what sets us apart is the excellence in delivery and the level of expertise we show in the course of executing our job and our role as medical laboratory scientists. One thing I've always canvassed for personally is that for every stage of our professional practice, we should always see a reason why we are consistently making progress. Because even if I claim to be a medical laboratory scientist 10, 15 years ago, and for the years that has rolled by, I haven't made any substantial progress in becoming better than I was yesterday. At a point, we begin to deteriorate, if I use that word, not because we haven't been trained, not because we're not professionals, but because we are not in sync with what is in vogue when it comes to current trends in medical laboratory practice. So for us to be professionals who are respected within our fields and outside our field, there has to be a level of professionalism, a level of expertise, a level of excellence that we would display in the course of executing our role. Understand that we have gone through different sectors of training, prolonged times when we had to amass a broad level of knowledge, which will make us stand out amongst our peers. And in this era, especially with the COVID-19 that made a high demand for medical laboratory scientist professionals, and we now had so many related fields coming in place and saying, no, we also have to work in this field. We also are professionals. Why can't we be given such leverage to also work in this field? What will make me to be desired amongst other people? It's not just that I am a medical laboratory scientist, but that I have been able to improve and become more professional in the course of executing my role. Understand that every profession have their ethics. Those who are nurses, they have the nurses' ethics. Lawyers have their ethics. Accountants have their ethics. Even those who learn trades have their ethics. Entrepreneurs have their ethics. There are do's and don'ts that they would put into place that will either make the business blossom or make them have massive loss. And so it is also in our own profession as medical laboratory scientists. There are ethics. And those ethics, if we don't hold them in high esteem, we will find ourselves going in, year out, but we're not making commensurate progress when it comes to our role as medical laboratory scientists. Understand that based on your ethics as a medical laboratory scientist, you are accountable for your professional practice. You are accountable. Hello, please, are you hearing me? Okay, thank you. Understand that as a medical laboratory scientist, considering the ethics of our profession, you are accountable for your professional practice. Most times when things go wrong, we are quick to pass on blame. We're quick to say, no, I was not the one that did this, so and so person should be held accountable. But understand that when you when you learn to hold to a high esteem the ethics of our profession, and you do it for yourself in the course of executing every aspect of your role, it makes you stand out. Because if I don't learn to become accountable for my ethics in practice, if you don't become accountable to your ethics in practice, people outside, those who are observing, can easily mess us up. Why? Because they have something to hold against us, because we're not holding to a high esteem the ethics of our profession. Remember that you have to be prepared to justify your actions and your decisions, especially when it has to do with routine practice. For some of us, we're in normal routine medical laboratory science practice, either in hospitals, teaching hospitals, private hospitals. For some of us, we are in the academics. For some of us, also, we work strictly in laboratories, private parastatals. For some of us, we're in research. Irrespective of your field of interest or your area of work, understand that you must justify your actions and decisions and hold to a high esteem the ethics of this profession. I won't begin to rule out rule number one, do this, don't do that. No, we all know that. We've been trained for that. But the problem many of us have is over time, because we've gotten a bit distracted by work, by pursuing money and other cares of life, we begin to lower down our standard and do things that are not expected of us as medical laboratory scientists. For those of us who work in clinical practice, where we have one-on-one contact with patients, we collect their samples and run analysis, understand that the aspect of human relationship comes in, customer relationship. I had a time when I was still in the hospital setting. I could see some of my fellow colleagues talking anyhow to patients and justifying why they had to be that rude. And there was a time I had to ask one of my colleagues, and I said, I know we don't really feel it because we are not the patient. We just come collect the samples, do the analysis, and if it's delaying and all that, we just give them a blank response. But imagine if you're the one who is in the shoe of that patient and they need the sample urgently. I had a case where a colleague, they had to bring CSF sample, that's cerebrospinal fluid sample, and the person I was working with did not analyze that sample that day in a bid of saying he has to hurry to go home. It's already time for closing. And you know that CSF sample is very sensitive and easily deteriorates. And the next day he began to analyze the sample. I asked him, whatever result we're getting from this sample is not valid because we're supposed to have processed it immediately and subcultured and done the gram staining and cultured before going. And he gave series of excuses. I have to go to church. I have to do this. I have to do that. And I say, if we can do that when it comes to handling other person's samples, imagine if we have done exactly the same thing and a life is at stake because of my carelessness. That's one aspect of professional practice that so many times we get. We are quick to converse for money. We are quick to converse for our rights. We're quick to converse for things we think we deserve, even myself. But then, have I been able to put in a high level of excellence and commitment in executing my work as a medical laboratory scientist? Most of us know the job. We are good on the bench. We are good in the lab. We are good in handling our work. But the question is, how much of excellence, how much of honesty am I putting in the course of executing my work? Can I justify my actions and decisions and know that even if I was the patient, whatever I had done at that time is what I would have also done for myself? Understand that we work with our colleagues, and as as much as we're looking at ethical practice when it comes to executing our work as laboratory scientists, the aspect of team play amongst ourselves as medical laboratory scientists and other medical professional setting or whatever field or work setting we find ourselves in. Always understand that first things first, the patient's interest comes as priority. Sometimes, or too many times, we forget, especially with the internal bigotry or internal dichotomy we face, doctors, laboratory scientists, pharmacists, nurses, and all that. First of all, I have an ethic in this profession that I have to hold in high esteem. And amidst all the differences and all the things I'm expecting, my patient comes first. The level of relationship I have with my fellow colleagues also has a play on how much of ethical practice I'm going to display in the course of work. When we make that our theme in the course of work, it makes a whole difference. Understand that, especially in this post-COVID era or in the COVID era and post-COVID era, we are lucky that in Nigeria, we didn't have the kind of death toll that was experienced in some European countries and even in America. We are very fortunate. But that we didn't have that high toll in persons who turned out positive does not mean that we were not affected by it. One thing I would tell us that this brought up the issue of microbiologists, biochemists, others in science-related field that had a bit of correlation with our field as medical laboratory scientists. And then we are screaming, it must be medical laboratory scientists, it must be medical laboratory scientists. The governments are saying their own, the doctors are saying their own. And I tell most of my close friends, I said, look, if we spend all our energy fighting this internal battle, we end up wasting our energy, the strength, the stamina we're supposed to use to keep improving, to keep becoming better in our field and practice as medical laboratory scientists. We channel that energy into internal fights. I tell persons most times, I say, look, the difference between me and an accountant, a nurse, or a pharmacist is that I chose to read medical laboratory sciences and they chose to read whatever course they read. If we begin to appreciate ourselves from that perspective, I know that all the internal fights will not be there. All the dichotomy will not be there. Yes, I cannot change the other person's perspective about me, but I can change my perspective about them. Why? Because I've learned to respect myself, hold my profession with high esteem while respecting others in their field. Understand that how far we can go, especially this post-COVID era, depends on the level of collaboration we can begin to harness to become excellent. Don't discriminate against other professional or related fields. It's something we struggle with, especially as medical laboratory scientists, because we've had major fights, minor fights, internal fights, external fights, both on the local level, the state level, the national level. How can we be relevant? How can we display a high level of professionalism in the course of executing our role without fighting and discrimination? It begins from me, it begins from you. When we begin to put to a high esteem, I am a medical laboratory scientist, I am proud of my field, and this is who I am. And I give a level of excellence that is admirable. That even if they feel like they can do without me, there are things they see and say, no, this person is very exceptional. So, that even as medical laboratory scientists, we don't just do the normal. It's easy for me to bring someone to come and do, but what will make me exceptional? What will make people look at me and want to associate with me? It depends on the high level of excellence I'm displaying in the course of my work. Understanding how to evaluate and interpret data. Understanding how to integrate data. Understanding how to solve problems. The problem I'm talking about is internal issues that comes up in the course of executing our role as laboratory scientists. We've had colleagues who have diversified into consultations. They're consultants for big laboratories, for organizations. Previously, we didn't have that, but we are beginning to have a new crop of medical laboratory scientists coming up who are diversifying beyond the routine laboratory practice on the bench. And it comes from me and you breaking the status quo in our head and determining to become different than what we have been used to in the years gone by. Understand that I think early part of this year, I organized a training on writing skills for scientists. I said, we have to come to a point where we now have lots of medical laboratory scientists who are into research, who are writing journals, who are doing lots of publications. Why? We do the work, but sometimes I remember I was talking with a medical doctor that's quite some years, over 10 years ago, and he was like, I wish I read medical laboratory scientists. And I was like, I don't understand. He said the kind of prospects that he's seeing abroad has to do more with research. And that's why you see many of them going to pathology. Why? They see the things we don't see. They see the opportunities. They see the opportunity to get grants. Most of these grants that I've gotten has to do with laboratory-based analysis, but laboratory-based research. We haven't seen those opportunities. How can I see those opportunities if I've always seen those who are in other fields as my enemies? And all I'm doing is I'm antagonizing and antagonizing. Understand that what we have to do as professionals, as medical laboratory scientists, should cut across and go beyond our routine practice as laboratory scientists. Let's begin to have laboratory scientists who are principal investigators for research in Nigeria. I was talking with one of my boss. He's a medical doctor. He's a pediatrician. He's by far, he graduated long, over 30 years ago. And I had the opportunity of working with him in the course of my PhD research. And he sent me a message quite recently, and he was like, okay, Grace, I'm writing an application for a grant, and I'm adding your name as part of those who are going to help in executing that project. I would desire that you write a grant. And when I saw that message, and I was like, Grace, you need to grow up. The growing up I'm talking about is not that I don't have a PhD, no. I have to begin to open my mind to possibilities beyond routine practice. Many of us just canvas for the routine. What stops Elvis? What stops me from getting to a point where we become indicators of major research where the grants, the funds that are being released for such research are going in tons of thousands of dollars. And we are executing those projects. Okay, sorry for the break in mission. Okay, I was talking about personal development before the network went off, and I said that it is a lifelong process that is aimed at us becoming a better version of ourselves consistently, irrespective of our accomplishments, irrespective of our certifications, irrespective of the number of certificates or degrees we have gotten. Continuous development makes you exceptional, makes you a force to be reckoned with, makes you an asset that people would want to associate with. And I was asking, what's your PDP? I know for us as Nigerians, when we hear PDP, it's People's Democratic Party. Well, that's not what I mean. PDP here is, what's your personal development plan? Understand that you need to grow, you need to learn consistently, and you need to explore new opportunities. Many of us have grown, and that's why we're medical laboratory scientists now. Some of us have had our master's, some of us have had our PhD. We learned and grew, but we stopped exploring. We stopped looking out for new opportunities. We just felt like I've arrived. Finally, I now have my master's. Finally, I now have my PhD. And that becomes our limiting factor. Why? Instead of me to keep improving, instead of me to keep growing and learning and exploring, I grew to a point and stopped. You grew to a point and stopped. Personal development makes a whole difference because despite the level of growth you are having, you keep opening your eyes to find new opportunities that would make you better, that would make you an improved version of yourself. My personal development plan will definitely be different from your personal development plan because we all have different areas of interest, different fields of interest, different talents, potentials. And remember, when I'm talking about personal development, I'm not restricting you to just medical laboratory science practice, personal development. No, I'm talking about you exploring different things, different potentials, talents, and skills that are unique to you. I've seen on social media medical laboratory scientists who are fashion designers, who are exceptional in different fields. I know some who have diversified completely into public health, into statistics, into um, different fields, but they were first medical laboratory scientists, but then they kept evolving, they kept developing. There are some of us who are still in the field practicing, but we're beginning to broaden our perspective beyond just medical laboratory sciences. When somebody was asking me, Grace, okay, you read medical lab science, why do you go and do pharmaceutical science, masters and pharmaceutical microbiology, PhD? I'm like, yeah, I've always loved microbiology and I wanted to diversify. But when I'm doing my introduction, I'm first a medical laboratory scientist before I diversify to different fields. And that I have reached this point is not I may now decide to go into music or go into something else. It doesn't take away the, it just means that I am exploring new opportunities. If that's the same encouraging every one of us as medical laboratory scientists, I won't tell you to do what I did, definitely not. But based on your unique scenario, based on your unique skills, your unique potentials, the things that catches your fancy, keep developing. Have a plan. I was talking with myself lately and I was like, oh, Grace, you need to go back to musical school. It has nothing to do with PhD. It has nothing to do with all the molecular knowledge I have. It's just a personal interest. And I'm like, yeah, I have a guitar. It's in the room. And I'm like, it's been long. I played this thing. Yeah, I played it last, I think in March. And I'm like, I need to associate with other musical persons so that iron sharpened iron, they would make me pick back the musical skills I've forgotten. It's a personal interest. If somebody sees me on the guitar tomorrow, maybe I'm on screen and they're like, she's doctor, they're like, doctor, we don't understand. A veterinary doctor, a honorary doctor. She has a PhD from us. I want to explore other things that I have potentials for. Yours may be different. But then it makes your life unique. It makes you enjoy yourself. It makes you enjoy your growth. Even as
If you've come this far, you've noticed that we've been impacted well enough by the level of knowledge that Dr. Grace came here with. She spoke about personal, professional development and personal development. And some of the things she said are mind blowing, and we've also recorded them on Skype here, which will transcribe, or better still, we upload them here and let you have access to them for those of you that are experiencing some lag in the broadcast. So we're going to be drawing the curtain for today. Tomorrow is the grand finale, and we'll be wrapping it up. I want to say thank you for supporting this work. Thank you for joining as many of you that have availed their data. You've given your data to LEADMedLab African Summit, LEADMedLab Africa Summit. You've availed us your data to participate, to allow yourself fed by words. You know, words are things. Words can change lives, and I believe that your life has been changed. We thank you for your time, for the time you spent with us. We'll continue tomorrow at 3 o'clock. We'll be coming back here again at 3 o'clock. We have four other speakers who we've lined up to speak to us. If you're on our Telegram channel, you're going to receive the notification. And if you're on our WhatsApp group, you're also going to receive notification. And if you're also in our Twitter, you're going to receive notification on how on 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 the materials that the previous speakers shared with us that we're going to be distributing back to you. So we're going to be shutting down at this point. We want to say thank you for supporting this work. Thank